That is such a crucial part in this healing journey, masculine journey, as you're going through your story, what happened to you, and getting context for your parents, getting context for your grandparents. It brings so much clarity and not justification, but empathy, understanding.
Yeah.
It did for me.
When
My experience
when
was, right.
But when you were ready.
Right. It's not an immediate, but I'm saying it is part of the process.
With God, there is always more. More love, more life, more freedom. Welcome to Zoe's Exploring More with Michael Thompson. C.S. Lewis once wrote, "Our Heavenly Father has provided many delightful inns for us along our journey, but He takes great care to see that we do not mistake any of them for home." Join me and the team as we explore the kingdom together, discovering the deep truths and offering encouragement for the journey. There is always more.
Welcome, friends and allies, to the Exploring More podcast. Hanging out with SJ Jennings as always, and hanging out with our
J.O.
Yeah, the J.O. Josh Overton.
Also known as Joverton.
Joverton, our teammate in the day-to-day here at Zoe, runs the Zoe Allies. And in light of our series on fatherhood, fathering, I asked Josh to join us because he's a dad of three. Ours are older, a son, 3 daughters. You have a daughter and a son?
2 sons.
2 sons.
Yeah, and a daughter,
So so we left this from the last session, I think. And I just, before we take a quick break, so you got a quick answer to this. But, I was a son.
Yeah.
And had brothers, and so I have that experience, but I didn't father sons. I have, I think, been surrogate to some in different moments, and that's a wonderful thing. But I think the biggest question that you could start with, and there'll be some others that we're going to talk about in this episode, is how does going from one bedroom with a daughter to the other bedroom with sons, or picking up one and dropping off the other, and having how does that work? How does that go? How does that look?
I miss the days of the boys sharing a room because bedtime was a little quicker. This house that we moved into a few years ago is the first time the boys have had individual rooms. So it's 3 bedrooms every single night. And as my daughter has gotten older,
how old now?
Yes, my daughter's 13. My boys are 12 and 11. Right. And so as they have gotten older, it's not that I've handed my daughter off to my wife, but their relationship and conversations have gone to another level that Lainey, my daughter, and we're still in that, she's my girl, I'm her dad, where Brooke has really developed a friendship with her and conversations that I have with my boys, where Brooke is still mom and she gets the interaction there. I get more of the in-depth conversation with the boys. So it's been a great tag team.
Yeah.
And I'm thankful for that. But it is different. It's way different.
It's really interesting. It seems like, again, I have one son, Steven, and a couple other boys I'm a surrogate to. But when boys are young, they're kind of attached to their mom. A little bit, and then they move towards their dad, and it's the other way around. It seems like when you have daughters, right? They're kind of real close to their dad, daddy's little girl, and then they hit teenage, preteen, teenage years. They gravitate more towards their mom.
I think it's a great observation, and they do. I think in the ideal, without any intent on offending anyone, I think in the ideal is a masculine and feminine heart for that young heart, whether that's a feminine or masculine heart.
Right.
I think there's that both and.
Sure.
Is seems to be the way we were designed and created, and I think that's what a young heart needs. I would say from my experience that, my girls, while they, I think like you, while there was a long season, maybe a decade of kind of gravitating toward Robin. In their 20s, though, I was
It swings back.
I was not I was not out of the bullpen.
Yeah, right.
As much, and became part of a starting rotation, to use that metaphor, with them. And yeah, I think they were. It was more than as they grew up and needed direction, advice, and help. And what we'll share today too, I had to do a lot of reconstruction and restoration and repair with them to even have the shot at doing that, because of kind of who and what I was as a dad when they were in their explore stage, particularly.
Yeah, maybe we can get into a couple of those stories today, but I think that, like you said, is universal as well.
Yeah,
whether they're girls or boys as kids.
Yeah, so
we wound them.
And we're going to talk. That is what we're going to talk about in this session, because somebody said we had to.
Right.
And so we will a little bit. So we'll be right back on the Exploring More podcast.
Every great adventure starts with preparation, a place to gather, rest, and equip ourselves for the journey ahead. In the same way, Zoe's Base Camp is here for you, an online resource library created to encourage and strengthen Zoe allies on the road to deeper connection, healing, and restoration. A base camp is a staging ground, a place to prepare for the next leg of your expedition. At Zoe, Base Camp is a resource library designed to help you and our allies gear up for the journey of the heart. It is packed with devotionals, discussion guides, and podcasts to help you deepen your relationship with God and one another. When you visit Base Camp, you'll find a growing collection of resources, each crafted to guide you and the men in your circles on your walk with God. Each series that you find below includes a devotion plan with supplemental video content from the Explore More podcast. The devotionals are designed for both personal reflection and small group discussions, helping you dig deeper into God's truth while building meaningful relationships. On the Base Camp website, you will see the various series that we have available. When you click on a series, you'll have the opportunity to download the PDF devotion plan and the discussion guide questions. This also includes an invitation to reflect in time alone with God. Share the plan with your small group and send out the podcast videos for members to watch on their own time. Then, when you gather, dive into conversations about what God is revealing to each of you. Base Camp is more than a resource library. It's a tool for building redemptive brotherhood on the road to experiencing more life, more love, and freedom with God. Start your journey today, explore Base Camp, and reach out to us at allies@zoe.org if you have any further questions.
Welcome back to the Exploring More podcast, talking about this series on being dads and what that's like. And here in, this is the third session, yeah? Third episode on this.
Yeah.
Right. So we thought it was a good idea at the time, but we kidded around a little bit early about, the regrets, the mistakes and stuff like that. And thought it might be good to just kind of go into that, not stay there, but kind of go back into that. So where are we starting? What's the
I think
kickoff of this?
Since this is the Exploring More podcast with Michael Thompson, I think you ought to lead off with a story of how you wounded your kids.
Okay.
No, man. I mean, it's not to make light of a hard conversation or hard things, but it is important to talk about. Yeah. And you've shared really not just the hard things and the ways that you hurt them, but you've shared a lot of victory too. I mean, we talked in the last episode, I think it was, about Hannah's accusation of you never come to her games,
right? And
that was a win, the way you handled that one.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's fair for you to start with one.
Yeah.
That maybe didn't go so well, but came back around.
That's very helpful, kind. I think three things that I'd want to drop real quick. No matter how you're fathering, and I hope it's well, and I hope this series and king me and the masculine and feminine journey, and those things are very, very helpful because there is intel that we need, especially about little feminine hearts. I mean, that's foreign land all the time.
Oh my gosh.
And still is as they have grown into young women. But I would say, SJ and Josh, that this is, like you said, tongue in cheek, pretty quickly. I want to slow it down and say, this is not a matter of if you wound them. It's when and how, and then how you react and how you respond to that wounding. And there's two things that I want to do in that statement, and to make it even more bold, italics, and underlined. Number one, they live in the same story you do. It's a fallen world, and there are so many variables that are contributing to this. Specifically, the grand puppeteer of it all is the unholy Trinity. And so the older they get, yes, the more their choices matter, and the more they become something and someone that the enemy is after. And so this fatherhood thing is such a glorious role that it is so significantly opposed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I have been that guy. I've been that dad that I think has handed the enemy ammo, clubs, and whatever to hit him with. And he's handed it to me, to hit him with. And so that there have been more. There's moments where I have been, just out of my mind as a dad, either frustrated or angry or talking through the teeth, and I hate it, And I'm not justifying it. I'm saying there's been those times.
No. I mean, let me put an even finer point on it. Okay, if you think the enemy is not going to use you to wound your kids, you are out of your ever-loving mind.
Yeah.
Because he will parlay what happened to you from your dad and your mom and your life and your agreements. This is all the stuff we talk about to wound, because all he wants to do is separate. He wants to divide. He wants to isolate. And it's a great win if he can separate a king from his
heirs. The heirs to the throne, right? Yeah. So that's what I wanted this is opposed, and the enemy's that good.
Yeah.
Because he sees this system long before most of us were ever even beginning to be oriented into the system. It started
in the garden.
But
that's exactly what he did. Divided the heirs from the father. Yeah. I mean, yeah, man.
But you can read that story and grow up in church and not see it and understand the system that is at work as small f father.
Yeah.
He's trying to distance and bring.
Just the first construct he created. Before the church was the family.
It was the family.
Yeah.
So, it's always been a target.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I think the one big repentance that I've had and confession that I've made, SJ, and so many of the things that I could share would fit in this category. So I want to share this headline.
Mm-hmm.
I wish, if I could go back, I wish that I had not told my kids what to think and feel, but rather pursued their hearts in asking them why they think and feel the way they are thinking and feeling in that moment. So there's no doubt that your little ones, and as they get even a little older, they're going to get bent out of shape. They're going to be frustrated. They're not getting what they want. These stages of their life's journey is fraught with
confusion and
all kinds of things.
They're misinterpreting.
And just ignorance and innocence, right? They don't know how things work.
And moments of what I probably would have classified, because it was too much about me, their disrespect, rather than somehow, some way, their discontent with some circumstance. And and I, we're going to talk about how you were raised, how we were raised has an impact on your fatherhood. And, not a lot of it for most of us is great. Maybe not all bad. And man, if you had one that modeled, caring for your heart especially if you're my age, 60. If you had somebody in the 60s, that's what that means, that was caring for your heart and was okay with you for a while, being in the center of the story, helping you become the beloved son, the beloved daughter, and then helping you find your place, not at the center, but around the story. That was the job that I don't know that I was able to clock in for so many years, in the 90s with my kids that are now adults. But that's where any story I would say with that my fatherhood was opposed. The enemy's that good. And number 3, I wish I had not told them what to think and feel, but rather pursued their heart in a way that I could come to understand why they're thinking and feeling what they're thinking and feeling.
Yeah. So question for you then.
So if you understand what I just said,
yes,
then you
absolutely.
can understand my demands on them as a father.
Sure enough.
And how heavy-handed that was.
Oh yeah.
On
Absolutely.
their behavior.
Yeah.
Particularly behavior.
Yeah.
No question.
What did you say? You don't say that. You tell her this. You do this. You do that.
So if that's the way that you fathered your daughters, where did you learn that?
Oh, yeah. So I think these generational pieces are real, and I'm going to pass this ball as fast as I can.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think my parents grew up in a time in history when children were seen and not heard.
Yeah.
So that doesn't bode well for what I just said. I wish I had done, seen them, and heard why they felt and why they thought the way they did. And so, there was a very punitive environment back then. And I don't know if you've looked at those pictures. I've wondered about this many times, looking at high school pictures from the 50s and 60s. Those guys look like they're 40.
Yeah.
Yeah. They've all got flat top haircuts.
They had to grow up. Maybe they just had to grow up fast or something. But, and even the 70s and 80s
hair's a little longer.
Yearbooks, they have those characters like that. Is that kid 17? There's no way he's 17. So I don't know if my point is, I don't know if the punitive order of things in parenting and the discipline and the spankings and the hittings and the beatings and all that was a part of that. But I think that was just a big part of, even in Christianity, I think there was quite the advocacy for not sparing the rod at my house. And so 3 little boys, that went on quite a bit, And you kind of knew, I knew from my mom and dad's voice, I knew how many chances we had. There's what's going on up there?
Oh, and then
that didn't stop us.
Yeah. So there's that, and then there's the Scott Jennings, and then it goes Scott Douglas Jennings. Come down here right now. It's just a progression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somewhere in there was a progression, and I think that was what I experienced, growing up. And I do believe my mom and dad loved me and my brothers the best that they could, but I've come to understand more and more about what that even means because of what grandma and grandpa was like in their worlds and their woundedness as fathers and mothers in my mom and dad's world. And so I think this is a generational. To your question, there's some level of connectivity generationally in how our hearts were handled, and what that even. This is not a great word. That's why I'm going to use it, because it's actually not a great word. But how it groomed us, as
and trained us.
And groomed is more the sinister way.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
And trained us to be. Yeah. And you don't even know it was in there until it's provoked. Till you had the kids.
It's a setup.
You could deny that you were never gonna be like that. That was not gonna. But it's something. It's just like what are those cicadas that come out? Every 7 years or 14 years.
Whatever it
something
is.
got buried in the soil of my heart.
I didn't know they were down there.
And then when the circumstances and the environment was right, So, That's tricky.
That is such a crucial part in this healing journey, masculine journey, as you're going through your story, what happened to you, and getting context for your parents, getting context for your grandparents. It brings so much clarity and not justification, but empathy, understanding.
Yeah.
It did for me.
When
my experience
when
was right.
But when you were ready.
Right. It's not an immediate, but I'm saying it is part of the process.
Yeah.
For sure.
It just came across our bow a couple weeks ago. Again, great movie from the early 2000s now, the early aughts. Seabiscuit. And I think about Red.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he's 12 years old when the hardest part of the Depression hits in the 30s. And his parents leave him with a horse trainer, because he's got a little bit of talent with horses. And just all that led to.
Oh, man, the
path of destruction in his life and fighting. And anyway, then you don't hear it in the story, but imagine now Red gets married and is going to have kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what that brings to a father in the way that he interacts with his children. I mean,
it's interesting you said that. One of two ways. He's either going to repeat that, or like my dad did. In many ways, my dad was determined not to be like Grandpa. World War II guy, came home, could not engage. Mm-hmm. So I got a very present and engaged father, and yet we kind of grew out of that way when we grew into teams that didn't need dad's coaching. Right. Eventually 16 rides. You don't need to ride. I mean we didn't buy. I was in that high school that, man, we had clunkers. We had 1,000 clunkers in the high school parking lot, and nobody. But man, you had a car.
You had a car.
So
baling wire,
duct tape, whatever. Yeah. That's right, man. So there is this progression. I'm saying that where when I cut my dad's presence off, I didn't realize I was, but I was when that became unavailable to him. And it really came home, and I think this is the point that, circling back, the enemy really wants to deliver that message to boys and girls that you're on your own.
Yeah.
Just like the enemy delivered to us. So this generational exploration, and what you just said is so important, Josh, to be, hey, what happened to them? What happened to you? All of that matters when it comes to the table of being a dad and fathering well.
Yeah, I love that that's the direction you went, because I'm going to tell a quick story and then ask you guys this next question, kind of where we're headed. And really what we want to talk about is going back and honestly naming mistakes and apologizing. So kind of mending the woundedness when the opportunity presents. So in 2018, my son Stephen came to Colorado to the to the Heart of a Warrior West, Trail West. Yeah. And he shared with me, he had been coming for a couple of years, so he'd been doing some of his own work and actually, honestly, seeing a therapist, seeing a counselor. And he's okay with me sharing that he's been doing that. I've been doing it too. Shared about a time when he was about 10 years old, and it's just something about right around that age bracket, right? He's 10 years old. I don't remember even what he did, but he had lied to Sherry about something. And I think it was maybe a report card or something. And I just went way over the top with my response, to the point that I sent him to bed and then followed him in there after I sent him to bed. And he told me, had the memory, it was dark in his room, light from the living room, and I'm standing in his doorway, just a dark figure standing in his doorway, saying things like, when other people treat my wife that way, I take them out and beat them. I mean, and I don't remember exactly what it was. I had no memory of saying this to him.
But you knew it wasn't out of
I knew
question.
It wasn't out the realm of possibility that he might have experienced something along those lines. And then you multiply with, dark figure in the doorway, all that. He said it tormented him. Use that word. So, first affirm him for sharing that with me. I'm sorry you've carried that for so long. He's like, and I think he even said, "Do you remember doing that?" I said, "Buddy, I'm sorry, I don't. But it doesn't matter that I don't remember.
Yeah.
You remember."
Yeah.
So, and then we spent another hour just kind of talking through different things, not apologizing, and saying things like, "I'm so sorry, but you don't understand what I was going through at work at that time," or something along those lines that kind of diminishes or gives an excuse for inappropriate behavior as a dad. I just got to listen to him and allow him to express how hard that was for him, and really at the end of it, ask for the opportunity to mend some of that hurt in his life, right? And to do everything I could to,
own it.
Bandage. Well, own it, sure. And I did that right away because of the training that I've been in for a while now. Thank God for that. But also, too, how can I be a part of the reconciliation and the healing from it, right? And so, when we talk about wounding our kids, maybe share a story, Josh, of an opportunity that you had, an opportunity that you had to go back and honestly name the mistake, and what did that look like for you?
Yeah. So we had 364 days of man-to-man parenting, and then my third kid was born, and have been in zone defense ever since. And so a lot of my parenting experience has felt a little bit like getting in the ocean as a kid. You may remember. And you're kind of just playing, thrashing around, and all of a sudden you look back and you're like, where'd mom and dad go? They didn't go anywhere. The current took you down.
Yeah, you went down the beach.
And so we've had those moments where we're kind of just living life, especially now that they're older. We're busy. We're at ball fields. We're just always constantly calendars full. And then all of a sudden we kind of look up and we're like, how did we get here? How did this moment just happen? I thought we were doing good, and it's just a current of life. And busyness and missing moments. And so much of the positive benefit of walking in this message, hearing stories like you guys have shared, I've heard it for years, is it's taught me how to circle back. I'm not exempt from wounding my kids just because I know better. But I am more cognizant and aware to circle back. And so one of the stories I've told recently is I get a chance to coach my 12-year-old in baseball. We've been hand in hand for years now, working, practicing drills, reps at games. And a lot of that was from a good place of, I want to show up for you. I want to show up and support. Well, I've noticed over the last few months, he's withdrawn from that, getting very defensive over just simple coaching tips, not harsh criticism, just hey, correcting a mechanic, whatever it may be. I've noticed him close up. And so I asked him in the truck a few weeks ago, hey, buddy, what's going on, man? Like, what's up? You can talk to me. What's up? And he said, well, after a few minutes of silence, he said, well, I just feel like when you say things to me, you're just disappointed in me. And I did not know how to respond. I don't think we talked the rest of the way home. I just didn't. It caught me so off guard. It hurt me that he felt that way. My immediate response, my reaction, not my response, my immediate reaction was to go, do you know, how many hours, how many things I've get? What the heck? I didn't say that, partly because I've heard some stories that you guys have shared that help teach me a different response. And so finally, a few days later, we're going to the cages, and I just looked at him and I felt the Lord say, hey, ask him, what does he want? What do you want? What do you want from me specifically? And he couldn't really answer or wouldn't answer. So here's a couple scenarios. Do you want me to be your coach? You want me to come in and help you do the things that you've been working on that you know the right way to do it? No response. Do you want me just to feed the ball, throw the ball, catch the ball? I can do that. No response. So do you want me just to be there, and if you need my help, you'll tell me? He said, yeah.
That's Option 3, huh?
That's what I want. And I was like, I can do that. Well, I didn't do a great job at that the first few. I found myself just going into coach mode and then watching his body language. I'm like, man, okay, stop.
Yeah.
You know, just stop, just encourage. He just wants to know that I believe in him. That's what he wants.
Yeah.
And it's been better, but man, like that was one of those that I didn't really, it wasn't like I yelled and knew, that was wrong. It was, I thought I was doing a good thing.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways it was, but still how the enemy gets in and manipulates and twists. And
it's a great example of how they're in the same story we're in, right?
Yeah. And how he interprets things, right?
Yeah. That's what I just write down before you just said that.
Interpretation, yeah.
I mean, that's a huge part of this, you know, that you know, they're processing, they're interpreting, they're coming to conclusions, and some of it, unfortunately, is with the help of the enemy and our aiding that, or the enemy aiding us. There's no doubt. But even, something more subtle like that, you know, and comparison's not even helpful here, because, you know, you could get another 10-year-old and that kid would be like, "Are you kidding? Your dad's, he just comes to the games. Your dad takes you to the cages.
Right. He tells you how to hit. He tells you how to catch.
As much as that, it's not relevant.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's not really helpful.
Yeah.
And one thing you said that I want to give you props for. You said, I saw it in his body language.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think, I guarantee you there were times I came home from days in elementary school or junior high, high school, and I probably was wearing it like that, but, you know, they didn't see. Or if they did, and this is unfair, but if they did, I feel like the standard would be, what's wrong with you? Mm-hmm. Well, that doesn't make you want to tell anybody, you know, how you're feeling or what you're thinking or what happened today. Yeah. You know, so I think that body, the fact that you could even recognize in your son, that's just a beautiful idea, that we could be not just close enough proximity, but close enough and soulfully that we could see on their face, something's not right.
Oh man,
you know,
I remember lecturing Stephen and watching him kind of glaze over.
Yeah.
And, you know, I kind of react that way too. Like, oh, come on, teenager. Like, can you focus for 30 seconds? You know, really what it was is that's a trauma defense mechanism.
Yeah. I can't take anymore.
He just shut off.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
And so that's.
You can play Fortnite for an hour. You can't focus for that, dude.
Oh, dude.
I'm with you, bro.
Yeah.
But that's
right.
I think I was able to pick it up because I've seen him shut down.
Right.
And that's not how he normally is.
Yeah.
Like I didn't catch it the first time.
Yeah.
Or maybe even the third, fourth, fifth time.
Yeah. And this is not a podcast about empathy and the difference between empathy and sympathy.
Yeah.
But I can't not think about that.
Yeah.
Like if you can watch your children respond and connect it with something in your own experience, from your own experience, that's empathy.
Sure.
Like, I remember now, oh my gosh, I remember when my dad used to ask me to do something and then tell me how to do it the whole time.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
I would say to any dad,
I can relate, Judah, you know, like.
And I would say to any dad, like, even then, that's probably, when you're finding that empathetic point, that's not permission for you to share it.
Right.
It's permission for you when it's inviting you.
My dad used to do that to me all the time too, and I turned out fine.
Yeah. Right. Or, you know, I know exactly how you feel.
Yeah. No.
And let me tell you what happened to me. I mean, there's a place for let me tell you what happened to me. Mm-hmm. But like we saw in that one clip, you know, you know how I know that about fire? Mm-hmm. You know, I did the same thing. Mm-hmm. You know, and that was appropriate in that moment. But I think with the question, so one, props on seeing a countenance and going, okay. And then the courage to, is it me? Yeah, it's you, Dad. What did it help me?
Yeah.
What? And then that the papers and the document is right there for the signing of, I'm a disappointment to my dad.
Sure.
Crap, man. If that came up and you got to step into that and avoid a decade of that, Jiminy Christmas,
Yeah,
you
man,
know,
I hope so.
and that story's worth gold. So, you know, unfortunately, I think, you know, because I was parenting more for their behavior and their you know, obedience. Yeah, you know, I've got too many stories of, you know, grabbing a little girl whose flip-flops on the sidewalk are making that noise, and she thinks it's really fun and really cool, and I'm grabbing her by the arm and stop that. You know, for no, I mean,
Right.
I think, you know, that was one of Ashley's stories. And I didn't remember the day that I did it, but she sure does.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I think all of my biggest regrets come around angry dad, around, you know, forceful dad, and demanding, and even refereeing, you know, some of the altercations they're going to have as siblings, you know. Caleb tells a story about, you know, he got to the point where he didn't, you know, when his brother was bullying him, he didn't even want his dad to know because they both got punished the same. They both of them were equally considered guilty when Caleb's like, what the heck?
Yeah.
This is this court system sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think I did, you know, some of that just because of the noise that it got. So, you know, everybody's at fault. Well, you should have, and you could have done this to help her, and, you know, just not even refereeing. What's that guy, Angel Hernandez?
Oh, yes.
If you're a Major League
umpire,
Baseball guy,
yeah,
he's the one who catches a lot of crap. And there's,
well,
but I
that's not the point.
Like us, some of it earned.
Some of it, yes.
I was that kind of referee as a dad, you know, where I'm ringing people up and. The ball's
a foot outside.
Nowhere in the strike.
Right.
The pitcher didn't even throw it.
My elbow.
The pitcher didn't even throw it. I'm like, yeah. So, anyway,
I'm in charge.
That's just embarrassing and sucks to admit. But those are things that through my 30s, because I came into this, as we've talked about before, but for anybody who doesn't remember or just now, I didn't start my orientation path until I was 38.
Yeah.
So the deconstruction was significant for about the next decade. And, you know, stories, and it didn't mean that I didn't hurt them or wound them after that, but some of it diminished and became less. And yet so much damage was done that it was going to be a long haul, and has been a long haul, to reinstate myself in their world as someone that they could trust and was safe.
Yeah.
And I think we're about there, maybe. I hear from them a lot more. I have a rapport with each one of them differently, but I have a rapport with them that I feel like, you know, that you must like me enough to send me these texts and emails.
You're responding to the reel I sent you.
I mean, and engage with me that way, and then occasional calls on, you know, on their drives home and stuff.
And now, again, it's totally subjective, right? Everybody's a little bit different, but how long was it before you felt like you were no longer on the edge of the cliff of being like, I don't even want to have any kind of relationship with you at all, Dad. Like, you're not safe for me. I mean, before you kind of came away from the edge of the cliff a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I felt that way with Stephen, where I was kind of, man, I hurt you for so long in so many different ways. I just want to be so careful. So that hypersensitivity, I guess.
Yeah. They all were getting some counseling and help. You know, Robin had been really, really good at being their advocate as a mother, and I was getting there. So from through my 40s, you know, I'm trying to climb a really slick hill with all three of their hearts, you know, and not maybe literally, but if they're throwing rocks, they probably had the right. They, you know, it was because of some of the damage, you know, done, and
they brought a replay system in. Instant replay. Yeah.
And so so I would say, SJ, the answer is right at my 50th, somewhere right in there. Could have been 49th year, 50-year-old, 51 was a Father's Day, and this is a Father's Day, release. But there was a Father's Day, and they were all home for some reason. So it had to have been a decade ago when they might have all been, kind of high school, college, in that just graduated college. So it was Father's Day in June. And we're all around the living room, and I'm getting the cards and stuff, and I'm reading them. And it wasn't the enemy, bro. This is not a fun story. It wasn't the enemy. It was the Holy Spirit that just showed me, here's what they wrote, but that's not how they feel.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the worst Father's Day ever.
Yeah.
Not because I was indicted, but because it just broke my heart.
Yeah.
So my answer is, when did things start to turn? It wasn't so much something that they did as something that I feel like the Spirit did to me, and broke my heart.
Yeah.
And I told him. I think I had some tears. They're like, "Oh, Dad," and I'm like, "No,
it's not why you think.
It's not why. Here's what I love you. I love your cards. I love what you said, but I don't feel it. I know. I feel like it's something
it's obligatory.
You're right, because it's Father's Day, but I know better. I know that there's a lot of damage there. So
okay, thank you.
So that was the beginning.
Yeah, the beginning of the turn.
And I think if I could interject, I think one last thing. I had fallen from my pedestal as a hero in their story a long time before, but that might have been a turning point for them to not, scowl while I'm laying there, but go, okay, he gets it.
He's starting to see it.
He might. Maybe he gets it. And they were the ones that had empathy.
Yeah, gosh, man, it makes me think of the Santa Claus statement,
mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Adults think seeing is believing, but kids know believing is seeing.
Yeah.
And I mean, man, you're starting to believe it.
Yeah.
And that's 12 years into this journey and this message, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So as we wrap up this episode and move towards the next one, I think the starting point for turning regrets from just being regrets into what we refer to as a holy regret, starts with reconciliation. So, what does that mean to you guys? Like, because I can look back on some of the things that I did to Stephen as a dad, and we've reconciled about, and now it's not that I don't regret them, but there's a holiness to them because that bone has been set. Mm-hmm. Does that make sense?
Yeah, rebroken maybe too.
Yeah, and sometimes it has to be rebroken to be set the right way, right? So, even as I shared a little while ago about him, just kind of, I watched him glaze over, and then I described what that really is. He needs to know that I know what that was. Right? Even in this moment, I need to call him when we're done recording, because I used to punish him for that.
Right.
So I want to turn that regret into a holy one too.
Redeem it.
So
right.
Stories of that as we land the plane here, maybe what that looks like for you guys.
I'll jump and then you can. Mariano Rivera, close it out. Yeah, man. I just lost my thought, but something around the lines of you said reconciliation, right?
Yeah.
I think for me, if it's true for me that Jesus has handled my heart with my belief that there were things that are true and there are things that weren't, but it felt true, and Jesus moved at my heart in each one of those things to bring reconciliation, then that's got to be true for them too. And so back to that story with Judah, there's more where being invited to step into moments to, I did do that. I did say that. I did overreact that way. And I just need to own it and repair that. And then there were things where, not that what Judah felt wasn't true. There were aspects that were, but there were some that I was just able to help him reinterpret and repackage, reframe it, maybe is a better word. That I felt Spirit-led to help him reframe that. But that started first by meeting him where he was, because what he felt was he did believe that I was disappointed. That absolutely wasn't true, and I needed to step in and bring reconciliation.
Yeah, man.
And so we don't have time to go into specifics. That would be the headline, right? It's just trying to move at them the same way Jesus has moved at my heart.
Yeah.
With that compassion. So yeah.
I like that phrase, move at them, a lot. I think it's a great, it's the job of fathering, for sure, to move at them, with them, for them. And those are things that, they weren't pitches that I had, just gonna try to bowl it all over, run it over. And I would say too, as a hope and encouragement in just landing this, is the wild thing about it is I can't explain it other than to try to describe that there's a part of your sons and daughters' hearts that are connected to you as a dad, because you're the dad. It's just a thing. And it does, our dads, they're still our dads. There's still hopes and desires and wants that we have with them. Whether it's to invite them to a baseball game or to lunch or to come over, or can I come home? Can I, there's some real significance to that there's a part of my daughter's hearts that are connected to mine as their dad. And that, I'm saying, that's a good thing. That's working actually in our favor.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
For these, not only, how we go forward, but the recovery of some of the things in the past. And so we wrote in King Me, and we've talked about this. I think to let the Father God father you is huge, critical, significant. That's your best move. And as he does, I think you're still their father, and I think being moving toward them, moving for them, moving at them with questions and invitations. And mine are older now, so I don't tuck them in. But I like to send a text, sometimes at the end of the night. So texting is some of my world.
First thing in the morning.
Some of my world, because we all look at our texts, man, and so to be in there with, some of the reels I send, saucy biscuits and, little.
That's right. That's right. You bright shining star
yes.
in the universe.
Yes, go get them.
Get up
today,
and go get them.
Today.
That's right.
Things like that, and then, hey, praying for you tonight, or. So I'm not as privy to their day-to-day now, but when they do share some information with me, what's great about the text is it's up in the feed.
You got a record.
You can go, hey, how did that presentation go at work last week? And I obviously sound brilliant, but and that's okay. I'll take it if they said, man, Dad remembered. Well, Dad was looking. Maybe trying to find those places to stay connected to their hearts and letting them know I see them, love them, proud of them, I think are all ways that have been redemptive.
Yeah.
And yet I know there are still some really important conversations with each one of them about particularly that Explorer and Warrior stages where I wasn't the dad that I could have been, but wasn't the dad that I would be.
Yeah.
But the dad that they got, I need to be responsible for that, and so that they can be free, that the enemy wouldn't hold that against me, and particularly against them, that they were somehow a disappointment, or I wasn't, that my love was conditional, based on how I treated them. So,
well, in the next episode, we're going to talk a little bit about stories about creating or seizing a moment.
Yeah, Perfect.
So
I'm glad I didn't
like
go
just
into
came up with in me, you know, I'm going to seize on that moment to pursue Stephen, right, and reconcile those many, many moments when I thought he was just shutting down and being disrespectful to me and all of that, you know. So yeah, it's a great reminder, man, to, you know, as God brings things up in you, to go back to and move towards them, right? Mm-hmm. And hey, I don't know if you remember, this happened when you were 10 years old. Man, I didn't handle your heart well, right? And seize those opportunities.
Yeah,
it's good.
And see what it leads to, because that'll somehow have either a ripple effect or a reconstructive part, or it'll show you something you thought it was this.
It might break a dam loose. I mean, it might blow some stuff up. You know,
it's like, yeah, Dad, I remember that, but what I really remember,
right?
You know, whoa. So, and those are great places to go.
Yeah,
courageous men tread there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
as fathers, for sure.
Yeah, it's good. Thanks.
All right, thanks, friends. Yeah, thanks for joining us on the Exploring More podcast.
Subscribe, like, leave a comment, share with your friends.
Yeah.
We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. We'll see you next time on the Exploring More podcast.
We hope you have enjoyed this episode of Exploring More. The landing page for this podcast is zoe.org/podcast. That's ZOWEH.org/podcast, where you can find the show notes and various platforms to which we broadcast. You can also find us and the Life of More by visiting Zoe on YouVersion Bible app, Right Now Media, our Facebook page, and Zoe on Instagram and Twitter. Remember, with God there is always more, and you were made for more.